So we are on page Kuf Lamed Hey, pardon me, the bottom third of the page. The line starts with the word Ha-Hashpo. In general, this discussion is ultimately, on the broader scale, the difference between Oyer and Shafa. And in principle, the focus is on Hashpah. That Hashpah is not merely teaching what one knows, but Hashpah is translating what one knows in relation to the one who he's teaching, whom he's teaching, the Makabel. And that requires great effort on the part of the mashpiah, and ultimately it changes this sechel that is mashpiah in a manner that it should be proximity to the Makabel. As I said, we are on the line that begins Ha-Hashpo. That a real mashpia, a real teacher who has an effect on his talmidim, he changes, or he prepares the sechel, presents the sechel in a manner that it should be acceptable to the Makabel. Now in the middle of that line, the lines begin on the word Biklolus.
It's 10 lines from the line.
Oh, terrific. When did you learn how to count so well? Well, Biklolus, in general, in other words, in principle, Zehu Behaseichel Hashayach al Makabel. This contraction, retranslation, and so forth, is applied to the sechel that is shayach al Makabel, the initial sechel that relates to the Makabel, that belongs to the Makabel. What is that about? The sechel that belongs to the Makabel. So the Rebbe explains, Ukiyodua, as we already know, and in fact we learned this already, the bechol inyan sichli, that in every inyan, in every principle of sichli, an intelligent principle, yesh, there is the presence of that sechel, k'moish ha-sechel hu le'atzmei, as the sechel is unto himself, shehu ha-pnimius, which is the pnimius of the sechel, and then there is a chitzenis ha-sechel, then there is the externals of the sechel, hu sheshayach al Makabel. That is what belongs to the Makabel. Obazeh, and in this part, in the chitzonius part of the sechel, tzorich l'shan is a hashpo. This is where the hashpo has to be changed to tiya be'erach hamakabel, that it should be be'erach hamakabel, in proximity to the makabel. In other words, the sechel, the pnimius, the way it is by the mashpiah, that is altogether impossible to transmit to the makabel. That is this is the way it is by him, and he cannot really share it with him, with the Makabel. But then in this sechel there is also that between sechel as it is pertinent to the Makabel, in proximity to the Makabel. This is where there has to be, in order to actually be mashpia, he has to change it according to the Makabel, that it should be Berach Makabel. We discussed this somewhat. However, this seems to require more elaboration. There seems to be a contradiction in the very presentation. Here you say that is a sechel that belongs to the makabel. Then you say no, it has to be first changed before you can transmit it to the makabel. It belongs to the makabel. Okay, why does it need to be changed? The principle in this, no back. The principle in this is, as we already discussed, the truth is, and as we shall see soon again, that even the chitzeni sechel, the sechel that belongs to the makabel, and as everything, we need an illustration, then we can readily know what we're talking about. What is shaykhah to the makabel? That which can be shown in factors, we can in a presence. If you want to explain to somebody what is a home, show them a house. When you can show them a house, so it's not a concept. You can show them it exists. However, when you show him a house, you're not showing him a home. You're showing him a house. Some of the chitzenius. And here is a thing that we would like. We have to try to understand what the other is saying. I'm showing him a house. This is the chitzenius.
To remain on this call, press 1.
This is the chitzenius of a home. So what's missing? This is something clear to him. And this is the important principle. I'd like we should think in the following question. Which comes first? Which begets what? Does a home beget a house, or does a house beget a home? How does it work? You see a house and say, oh, I can make a home out of it. Is that the way it works? Or the opposite? The person conceptualizes a home, and then he translates it in a house level. And this is the difference between the way it is by makabel and the way it is by mashpiah. The mashpiah, he sees a house, and this is something which he can transmit to the makabel, but by his house was created by a home concept. Therefore, by him, when he says the house, it's still super the sechel of the makabel, because he begins his whole sechel from seeing the house. Therefore, in order to transmit to him the sechel hamashpiah, he still has to be mitzamtzim, lower the sechel, even that sechel which belongs to the makabel. But he has to lower it to the point where he can take it as a, starting from the chitzenius rather than starting from the pnimius. This is what REBBE says. It is a sechel that belongs to the makabel. You can readily show it to him. But if he's showing him a house, you're not showing him the real thing. Because a home, the beginning is not the house, the beginning is a home. Therefore, you have to translate the union of the home, even though you're showing it in a house, but then you have to explain the house, that the house should have a meaning to him at his level. It has to be a meaning. If it's just, you show him 4 walls, you're not showing him anything. All right.
So wait,
there's no way that the mashpiah could describe a home. He has to start. Home is out of reach. He has to start with.
Home
house.
is not in outreach. It's not his world. His world is the world of Chitzenius. It's true. It's all outreach, but it's not only. It's not sechel hashayach al makabel. The sechel hashayach al mashpiah. The concept of home is not created from a worldly experience. It's created from inside the mashpiah, pnimius.
And we answer the question of is something lost in translation, or why does he even talk about? What can he talk about that relates back to the origin? And so we're answering that by saying house and home are intimately linked, which isn't necessarily the case. Plenty of people have houses but not a real home.
If they're people, their houses are homes. We're not talking about we're talking about people.
So in this
Question is where it starts.
fine. And in presenting to the recipient, you just start with the outer structure,
That's right.
the chitzoni, and then
That's right. In order to explain to him
the light will kind of arrive there or settle into it.
exactly, in order to explain to him what a home, you have to show him a house,
Okay.
because that's the world in which he functions, and he orients. But you immediately point out to him the sechel in it. There you're able to talk to him. So in other words, even when you talk about the sechel hashayach al makabel, sechel belongs to makabel, you still have to translate it at his level. Again, the line begins with hamakabel, el hamakabel, ubozeh, and this sechel, this level, what sechel that belongs to the makabel, sorich l'shan is hashpo. This is where the mashpiah has to change. Shetia be'erach hamakabel, that which he gives to the makabel should be be'erach. It should be in proximity. Within that itself should be be'erach hamakabel. Because the mashpiah himself, b'chitzenis, by him is also above the head of the makabel. However, you have to understand. Now, this change that takes place in the hashpah, in order to present it to the makabel, this is not a fundamental change. He's not changing the reality of the sechel. Since that this which he presents to the makabel is literally the same sechel as it is by him, rak except shabo b'chinas miyut, that it comes in a miyut, in reduced manner. Furthermore, it's reduced, and then also be slapshus b'inyonim shebar hamakabel, and it is mislabish. It is dressed up. It is presented in inyonim that are in proximity to the makabel. This is the concept of the misholim. The moshel is a pshat that you take something from the experience of the makabel, and you show him the sechel that you want him to understand within the experience of the makabel. That's what happens here. And occasionally, occasionally, actually the sechel is reformatted in a totally different form. In order to feed it to the makabel, sometimes you have to completely reform it. Shall they zed dafka, whereas sometimes only by reformatting it, miskabel is in hamakabel, it becomes acceptable to the makabel. As always, I'd like to present each step over here in a manner that we can identify it. You have to reformat it. What are you reformatting it? Let's step away from a house for a moment. Think that something simpler, a table. A table is also a human experience. Only a human being appreciates what a table is. Now, what in fact is a table? In concept, as we said many times, a table flows from the dignity of man, and it identifies a definitive place and so forth. How do you explain a table to one who is not experienced that, who is a makabel? You have to explain the table for coming from a different direction. In other words, you cannot tell him it's a table. You have to tell him, start from the format. What is the format of a table? The format of a table is a unique Indian. What is it? It's a board that flows in air, but it doesn't. How does it flow? It has legs that support it. This is how you explain to him. Now, it's something that actually is held up in mid-air, in proximity to his hands and his head and so forth, that it be useful. But what supports it? It supports it, the legs that support it. So, in order to explain to him that you can create something that will actually be supported at a certain level, and the level has to be a comfortable level, because the whole phenomenon over here is not the support of the legs, but the comfort of the board. So therefore you're presenting the whole thing from a different approach. Do you know something? We can make a board float in mid-air at a certain height. How? We put our legs to it.
I'm losing track here. You're explaining to somebody what a table is, because that's a mashal for giving them mashpiah, sechel, yes?
Right.
Okay, and this that you say to them, it floats in front of you, is to indicate their contact with the utility of it for them. Is that correct?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Because you can't start talking about a table. See, a board that floats in front of you.
Why that? Because that's where they can touch it and it relates to them.
That's
that
how
could be
you
useful. I'll put my stuff on this. Yes,
No. Meaning that's later. How is it going to float? He has to explain to him from his approach. How does the tape float? It floats because it had legs.
From the perspective of the mashpiah.
That's right.
He doesn't really care how it floats. He just cares that there's this new surface for him.
Yeah, but please understand. If he's a fool, he's accepted by, but he's not a fool. You're not trying to fool him. You're trying to explain to him.
Oh, so you'll have this utility and it'll stand on legs.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is how you present the table to the makabel from a different approach and completely. When you explain to him that this table is supported by 4 legs, then he is able to relate to it. Aha. And then it becomes that it's something that I see. Once it stands like this, you can use it actually. Then the table comes into focus. Okay, at the end of the line that begins with Ulpiyomim, V'nimtza, therefore he comes out. V'nimtza, he comes out. The result of this discussion. The Levad says that besides the point, Shamashpiah mutra be'atam ha'ashpa, that mashpiah is disturbed, or mutra, preoccupied. In the hashpa, in tzavla hashpiah ha'makabel, to be mashpiah to the makabel. In other words, he has to speak to the makabel and relate to him. Harehu mutrad gamkein. In the very fact that he is mutrad in the hashpot lashpil makabel. Now let's understand what is the first level tirut. That he is preoccupied, he is disturbed to hashpil makabel, to be mashpil makabel, and then also there's another level of tirut. Sheti hashpot lefiyara makabel, that the hashpot should be in proximity to the makabel. What are these two inyonim? The very fact that he is required to recognize, he's involved in his own sechel. His own sechel he contemplates privately in his own mind. Now all of a sudden he has to recognize another person. And recognize another person means to give him cognizance and give him a certain sense of respect, a certain place in his mind. That's already a tirut. There's halachas about this, that you force somebody to deal with people that he is not accustomed to deal with and so forth. That's a whole tirut. So this is also a tirut. He has to be conscious that he is talking to someone, and when you're talking to someone, you have to recognize his presence. You have to recognize the sense of respect that would have for him. That's already a tirut. In addition to that, he has a tirut in the hashpah in the teaching itself. There are 3 lines from the bottom. He is also preoccupied in the mutrod. I had a word for that, I can't think of it at this moment. Something that is disturbing to him and preoccupied in the hashpah lefera hamkabel. That should be in proximity to makabel. Why? Because that is in fact what this whole relationship is about. The mashpiah wants that the makabel should get the hashpah, and he is concerned about it. B'chol zeh.
I'm sorry, I didn't get what's the difference between the etzem hashpah and hashpah lefi erech hamakabel?
The etzem hashpah is that he recognizes another person here. This in that he has to deal with another person is already matrid, is already disrupting his personal peace of mind.
But that's called etzem hashpah?
Yeah, the etzem, that's called the etzem, the very essence that he is related to mashpiah, to be mashpiah, to give something. Mashpiah is he has to give something to somebody else. That already is a disruptive element in his own peace of mind. He has to recognize somebody else. Is this clear or it's not clear? Let's say you're a teller in a store, grocery store, or whatever it is, and the customer stands there and he's buying several items. And you're going to present to him the items. Here's your bread, here's your cheese, here's your milk. As you're putting these items down on the table, you're conscious that you're putting it in front of another human being. You're not just storing them up there. It will be completely different action. When you're storing them, you become almost throwing them so they shouldn't fall down, but essentially you're just putting it down. When there's another person that you're serving. Even though you don't have to translate, he knows exactly what you're giving him. By hashpah sechel, there is the additional union that you have to actually present it to him, that he should be able to understand what you're giving him. Imagine if you're serving grocery items, pardon me, and each item you're serving him, this is milk, this is orange juice, this is butter, this is bread. And he says, what's bread? You tell him bread is made of wheat. Milk is milk from a cow. Oranges is squeezed from oranges. You know, that would be a real tilut. This is how you have to present a sechel. Please understand, all this is, it seems to be a superficial and obvious thing, but there is an aim, there's a reason for getting into this. And here's the point. Kol zeh, this entire process, the need for this preoccupation. Why not just put it down? The answer is, ho it is lefi, because shemahuza ha'ora nishmim shebaseh. It is due to the fact that even though what he is giving him is ha'ora of his seichel, but it's the mahuz ha'ora, it's the reality of the ha'ora, the significance of the ha'ora, but the value of this ha'ora. Going back to our example of the grocery store, the ha'ora is the box that you're putting down. But you're not just putting down a box. A box that contains orange juice, a box that contains milk. You're not serving a box, you're serving a milk and an orange juice, the premium of it. And the chitzon is a container. And the aim over here, the reason you're putting this box down is because you want to serve the orange juice, not because you want to serve a box.
This is where we started today, with the house versus the home.
Yeah, so?
Okay. I'm just trying to see if there's something new in what we're saying right here. This is the point we made earlier today, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But now we're coming to the crux of the whole point. So, kol zeh, because that mehuza ha'or is nimshul b'zeh, that the reality of the ha'or, lochein, here is the point. Lochein, for this reason, ha-mashpiah nitwas b'zeh. The mashpiah is actually grasped in this. In other words, who serves orange juice? A monkey or a human being?
But what? Wait a minute. The point here is that the mashpiah is involved.
That's right.
You might have thought he's uninvolved. I mean,
yeah,
it's a relationship. He's relating.
If his hashpah is only the ha'ora, the chitzoni use, then he would not be involved.
It'd be sort of more off the cuff, like he.
Nothing. He's just putting it down. He's not even relating to you.
But here, he's relating and striving to
affect you and to tell you what he's giving you, and he's relating to what he's giving you.
Right, at that exact moment. He's not just using a formulation.
Exactly. And when he puts down a container of orange juice, it's orange juice. Puts down a container of milk, it's different, or eggs, he will put it down more carefully. He's aware of what he's doing.
That seems true of any human communication. I think we're bringing out something slightly more.
Not true. If it's communication, yes. But if he's just storing away orange juice on the shelf.
Right, but person-to-person communication. The math teacher showing the 3 times table, he's to some extent involved in it.
Here's the point. Here's the point. Okay? The Rebbe explains this. And this is the whole attitude over here, the whole effort, the whole challenge, and exhaustive detail is for this purpose. In order to understand that the mahuz, the reality of the ha'or is nimshum, not the chitzonius of the ha'or, even though he's giving only the ha'or. I'm putting on a box, the chitzonius. But I'm giving you the reality. That's the reason I'm giving it to you, this box. And I'm relating to this fact that I'm giving you something real. Even though I could be completely oblivious to it. You pointed to me, give me that box, and you give me the box. And yet I'm relating to what's contained in that box. The mahuz ha'or. This is mahuz ha'or. For this reason, mashpiah nit was. This is why the mashpiah is actually grasped, but he's involved and he is personally contained in this. Number one, shetzorech hashpiah is a need. It's a necessary that you should be mashpiah. You're not just talking to yourself and he listens to you, but you are actually talking to him. That is a tirut. Lefi, and because. Now, number one, he has to be mashpiah. And then also the second thing, that because of the fact that the whole purpose of hashpah is to be effective in the makabel, which means it means that when the kabel, what you mashpiah to him, should actually be imbued internally to him. He should appreciate the internal aspect of it, not on the chitzonius. Coming back to our grocery store, look, I'm giving you orange juice, not a box, not a container. And you want that the Mekabel should appreciate that you're giving him orange juice. Alkein, therefore, this is why there's necessary in this, there should be the tirdo, this preoccupation, vayisaskus, and the involvement. How should the shefa be presented? It should be presented in a manner of so that it will be accepted and taken in, so that you will appreciate.